All right, everybody, good evening and welcome into a Victory Monday edition of KC Sports Tonight. I am Mark Poulose, joined by Gabe Swartz after a Chiefs 23-20 win over the Indianapolis Colts yesterday in overtime. Harrison Butker paved the way there for the Chiefs, going 5 for 5 on field goals, including making the game-tying and game-winning kicks. But Gabe, this was really a game the Chiefs absolutely dominated, like the team counting stats. The Chiefs had 33 first downs compared to 10 for Indianapolis. The Chiefs had 494 yards of total offense compared to just 255. And maybe my favorite one, the biggest disparity, time of possession. The Chiefs held the ball for 42 minutes and 35 seconds compared to 25 minutes and change there for the Colts. But turnovers and poor red zone execution kept this game close. The Chiefs, Kareem Hunt with a very bad turnover, a fumble there in the red zone, and then Patrick Mahomes with an interception on the goal line. Also, the Chiefs going 1 for 6 in the red zone. Now, Gabe, I know you were at the game yesterday, and you are about as close to the sideline as you could possibly be. Your in-laws season tickets right there in the front row, in one of the end zones. So, being there in the stadium, how would you assess this win? And then also, it kind of felt like a big collective sigh of relief from not only the fans, but also from the players. Is that something that you saw there in person yesterday?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the turning point of maybe the season, if this is what it ends up becoming, because we talked plenty last week about how if the Chiefs could win against the Colts and get the ball moving, hopefully not take a step back on Thursday against Dallas, but get things off and running. What we will look back on is, and I'm curious if it felt the same on TV as it did in person, the Kareem Hunt fumble, 20-9. I have not gone back and rewatched the broadcast. I typically do after I attend the games just to see and hear what the general public heard as well. And it's a different angle of watching the game from and is worth retracing the brain of okay, that's how everything played out. It all gels together weirdly when you're actually there in person and you forget things or you remember specific things. So one of the few things that I did see from the TV copy was Travis Kelce going up to Kareem Hunt and hugging him and being like, dude, we're going to need you still. And he was definitely still needed. He scored a touchdown on the next possession. But I don't know if this was shown on TV. But what I do vividly recall, because it happened directly in front of us, was 20-9. A long, slow TV timeout is happening. And Chris Jones, as the Colts are huddled up with their backs basically against the goal line because they recovered that fumble on the 6-yard line or something, Chris Jones is walking over to the north sideline of the Colts sideline of the stadium. He walks over toward the end zone. He walks towards the other corner of the Chiefs sideline, and he is just vigorously waving his hands up in the air, getting people loud. Basically, I think reminding people it is not over yet, and we are not going to lay down and take this loss and take the end of this season lightly. And from that point on, it was 3-and-out city for the Colts offense, and it was pressure on Daniel Jones. So if you ask me, a lot of things happen, and we can discuss it at length. But if you ask me, the one thing I will remember is Chris Jones standing out there and being like, we are not going down without a fight. And I think as cliche and as simple as it is to say, that was championship mettle. That was Arrowhead spent a lot of the day angry, spent a lot of the day frustrated, and eventually everyone was like, you know what, forget this, and it became an 11-point comeback, and everything ended up working out. So.
No, I love that you brought up that moment where Chris Jones. No, I do not believe they show that on the TV broadcast. But that moment, Patrick Mahomes talked about last night at the postgame presser. He talked about there was a moment from the crowd at Arrowhead Stadium after that Kareem Hunt fumble. Patrick was saying where the crowd kind of got up and got going and said, even though there was that turnover, we still have your back. So I know sometimes fans don't really think that they have an impact on the game, but I mean that's the best quarterback in football, saying that the confidence that the fans gave the team kind of helped propel them there to a victory. victory. There are so many things that go on in these football games there in person. And so it's funny. There's such a big, I love how you said that when you go home, you go back and watch the TV broadcast, because often when you are there, you only have your two eyes, so you can only see what's happening right in front of you. But the flip side of that is at home, if you're watching on the TV broadcast, you get to see a bunch of things, but you also don't get to see the moment that Gabe just described, where Chris Jones appealed to the emotion of the crowd, and they kind of rose up.
Yeah, so, exactly. It's very different, and that's why you mentioned hearing Mahomes talk about that, but if you're thinking about it, like, I don't even know if Patrick Mahomes realized what spurred that on. I don't think that, if I'm being honest, in the moment, I was not in the mood for like, let's get
cheering
hyped and let's get going. Like, I was thinking, if I'm being truthful and honest, I was thinking after the Kareem Hunt fumble, great, the Chiefs have not only are they going to miss the playoffs, they still have to force us to watch them on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we have to be reminded of the misery of this season on the two biggest holidays of the year, essentially. And then Chris Jones comes out there. So what I'm saying is, I think Patrick Mahomes probably walked to the sideline as soon as they confirmed.
Probably talked to Matt Nagy.
Confirmed the fumble.
At the field.
He went, sat on the bench, got the tablet out, and started figuring out the plan for the next time they got the ball. And then he just heard the crowd get going. And what you realize actually happened is Chris Jones started firing people up. So that is really cool.
Yeah, I also saw yesterday, Chris Jones, last man out of the tunnel. Defense got to take the field with the entrances. And boy, I mean, that guy, he's the game wrecker, Chris Jones. He gets the people going out there at Arrowhead Stadium. Definitely an emotional leader there for the team. But it's cool to see the Chiefs kind of hold serve and stay in the playoff race. But it really does feel from this week, last week, even yesterday at Arrowhead, every game from here on out, the Chiefs are going to have to win to stay here in this playoff picture. Here's how things kind of stack up right now in the AFC West. The Broncos in first place at 9-2. The Chargers in second at 7-4. Chiefs in third at 6-5. And then the Raiders, a distant memory there, at 2-9. But the AFC playoff picture, guys, I know the Chiefs won yesterday. I know they are 6-5. But as they stack things up in the AFC right now, the Chiefs are currently the 10 seed in the AFC. Number 1, Patriots. 2, Broncos. 3, Colts. 4, Ravens as the winners of the current leaders of their division, the AFC North. Then the 3 wild card spots, the Chargers, the Jaguars, and the Bills, who again have all beat the Chiefs so far this season. Then in the 8th spot, the Steelers, the 9th spot, the Texans, and at 10, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now the Steelers, Texans, and Chiefs are all at 6-5, but the Chiefs lose the tiebreaker to those teams due to win percentage in the AFC. So Gabe, I know the Chiefs, big win yesterday. I know the team certainly feels like it's a building block for them, but they're going to have to walk the tightrope the rest of the way. Are you still concerned that this team could miss the playoffs? Because to me, it is still very much a possibility.
I think the conversations that we had last week of the Colts game being a playoff game was correct, and it was a must-win, and it was amplified of being a must-win based on the results of this weekend. So the Jaguars avoided a loss to the Cardinals. They won in overtime. The Bills on Thursday night lost to the Texans, and ironically, Chiefs fans probably just wanted the Bills to win because a loss to the Texans moves them aside. Now, the Chiefs still control that in that they can give the Texans a 6th loss, and I think based on the way that the Chiefs have played at home this season and the way that they played at home last season, they didn't lose a game at home last season. I think that the Texans game is going to be treated as a playoff game as well, because it's going to be another game where if you lose, you give away a tiebreaker and you're adding a loss, whereas the Texans are adding a win. So those all are working in their favor, I guess, of the schedule being that if they continue to win, they will get in. In fact,
win and you're in.
If they
Absolutely.
win, if they win out, I could even see a scenario where they end up 12-5 and the Broncos end up 12-5, and then who knows what the tiebreaker situation ends up being. I really do think though that like the Steelers are going to fall apart. They haven't completed a pass over 20 air yards in the entire month of November, and they lost to the Bears yesterday. The defense again looked poor. Caleb Williams ripped him up. And
he did have that weird pick
he had
six,
the weird
fumble six in the end
fumble
zone.
6 in the end zone. But aside from that, there you go. So I think that if the Chiefs just keep winning, they will handle the business. I think that the sounds of the locker room from what we heard yesterday with our crews in there, I think the team realized, even though that they went from the 9 to the 10 seed, that's just a product of tiebreakers, and ultimately they control their own destiny in the sense of just keep winning.
Yeah,
keep winning, and other teams, by virtue of the fact that the Jags still play the Chargers, the Jags still play the Broncos, or the Jags don't play the Chargers. The Jags play the Broncos. The Colts and Jaguars play each other a bunch, and having the tiebreaker over the Colts, I don't think anybody said this yesterday, but having the tiebreaker over the Colts could be critical.
That could absolutely loom large.
If the Colts somehow lose both games to the Jags and end up as a 5-loss team, now you're looking at a team that you hold a head-to-head tiebreaker over.
And I think the Chiefs really might have given the game plan to stopping Daniel Jones because just as you said, I mean, the Chiefs dominated the second half of that game. I mean, the Colts did not have the ability to move the football in the second half of that game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that was a big part to the Chiefs' comeback win. So we know the Colts have been hot. The Colts, now there's tape of how to beat them. And, I mean, the Chiefs really found a way to contain not only Daniel Jones but Jonathan Taylor. And I think that's interesting for the rest of the NFL. Going to see what happens here because I know right now the Colts are, in the 3 spot in the AFC, but there still is a lot of football to be played, and maybe the book is out on those guys. But here's the schedule the rest of the way for the Chiefs. They play on Thursday at the Cowboys. Then they're 2 games at home, 1 against the Texans and then 1 against the Chargers. Then they go on the road to the Titans before a Christmas Day game against the Broncos, and then closing out the season at the Raiders. So the Chiefs, if they win, they take care of business. They're going to find a way to stay in this playoff race. But if they slip up in one of those games, it could get dicey. Just considering some of the scenarios by the tiebreakers. But the Chiefs today, there is some player acquisition news that we do need to talk about. The Chiefs signed running back Dameon Pierce to their practice squad. He was a 4th-round pick in 2022 to the Houston Texans out of the University of Florida. He started 13 games as a rookie, and that year was the best year of his career. He ran for more than 900 yards. Fell a little bit out of the rotation last year with the Texans. He is listed at 5'10", 215 pounds. So it sounds like the Chiefs have another bruising tailback, maybe to take some of the pressure off of Kareem Hunt. And that also, it could indicate that maybe Isaiah Pacheco's injury, I know he did practice last week, but it's interesting to see them add a body at running back, especially when they have Brashard Smith. And obviously they spent money on Elijah Mitchell in the offseason. So Gabe, to me, this guy is going to be a short yardage back, 5'10", 215. He's built to take the punches in there. What do you kind of make of this move? I know it's the practice squad, and it's kind of hard to integrate players this late in the season, but what are your thoughts here?
Well, Dameon Pierce has more explosiveness than Kareem Hunt does.
He's got some burst.
And it is a matter of, I mean, ultimately, he was having a really good rookie season in 2022, which feels like a long time ago. But he honestly hasn't had a lot of tread on the tires recently because
Joe Mixon
stole the job from him in 2023 or in 2024, and the high ankle sprain that he had at the end of 2022 kind of just took him out of play for the most part. And the Texans began running a different run scheme, I guess, and it didn't fit him nearly as well. The coaching staff just didn't play him as much. So we'll see if he's a fit in Kansas City. I think ultimately that this signing says, A, the team realized that they cannot continue. If the goal is to play into January, and yes, they have to get to January, if the goal is to play deep into January and into February potentially, they cannot ride Kareem Hunt for 30 carries a game, and they can't even give him – I think that they gave him 15 in Denver and at altitude and against that physical defense. That wore him down. Speaking of things that you may or may not see on TV versus see in person, watching Kareem Hunt get tackled time after time after time
and
blows. Then peel himself off the ground slowly every single time. Like, if that guy didn't spend all of today in an ice tub or in a cryo chamber or in some kind of full body massage chair, I would be shocked because he looked like he was absolutely feeling it the whole game. And so I think that the Chiefs have just realized the Elijah Mitchell signing is an abject disaster. It hasn't worked out.
Complete bust.
And Clyde got 5 carries last night. Thank you for your service. He at least made a guy miss on a catch, which I was dumbfounded by. But
he's a little guy.
He's not the long-term answer either. So I think that this is it's a swing on a guy who has at least proven over one season that he can do things. And it's low risk. It's practice squad. But the fact that so many teams were in on him, like there was reports that the Broncos were in on him, and several other teams were at least checking with him, makes me think if he had choices and he chose Kansas City, there must be some role that they envision a possibility for.
Yeah, we're going to have to see what happens there. But, hey, guys, the Chiefs and Cowboys, on Thanksgiving, 3:30 p.m., you can watch that game right here on your favorite station, KCTV5. We'll have you covered every single step of the way. Sports Director Marlia Campbell and Neil Jones are going to be flying down there, so we will have live coverage down there from the Jerry Dome as we follow the Chiefs in their push to the postseason. But today we had some Monday afternoon basketball. The Kansas men's, the Jayhawks, fell out of the AP Top 25, but they were in action today. This afternoon against Notre Dame, KU won that game by, I think, about 10 points. I don't
71-61.
71-61. I wrote 69-69 here on the page. That's not right. 71-61 there for the Kansas Jayhawks. KU, though, again played without Darren Peterson, who continues to deal with a hamstring issue. But, boy, Gabe, today KU had a balanced attack without DP. They had 4 guys in double figures. Flory Badunga, 18 points. Bryson Tiller, how good is this kid? 17 points, 9 boards. Melvin Council Jr., their initiator without Darren Peterson, had 12 points. And Trey White, the transfer, had 16 points. So, Gabe, got a couple minutes here because there's some stuff that we still need to get to, but a little bit of a spin zone here. With Darren Peterson out, is this beneficial to Kansas? Because they're kind of figuring out how the rest of the team is going to look without their key player. So, in a little bit of a twisted way, is this a good thing for KU that Peterson's out?
If they can win the games, enough games while he's not playing, which based on what it sounds like, and I saw a clip on social media post game that Bill Self said that they're basically evaluating Darren every 3 to 4 days. They'll evaluate him again when they get back from Vegas. He's doing more in practice every day, it seems. It sounds like he could be back next Tuesday against UConn or next Wednesday against UConn, whatever night of the week that they're playing. If that's the case, and if they can presumably beat Syracuse tomorrow, and Syracuse is going to be playing without their best player because of injury as well, and then who knows who you end up getting in your third game in the Players Era Tournament. If they can keep doing all of this, I was actually going to bring this up as well, so great minds think alike, Mark.
Giving a lot of credit to ourselves, calling ourselves great minds.
Well,
broken clock is right twice a day.
There we go.
Blind squirrel finds a nut.
Exactly. But the thing entering the season that we talked about with KU was, there's evidence of them being there's reason to believe they'll be really good offensively when Darren is on the court. In the first game at home, in the exhibitions, and in the game against North Carolina, they were really good when he was on the court offensively, but they were not good when he was off the court. And having 40-minute stretches, 40-minute games of figuring out how to run functional offense, figuring out how to maximize the minutes where he's off the floor, and then if he can come back and play 28 to 30 minutes a night, that means you have a much better chance of those 10 minutes where he's on the bench of not just getting completely blown out. And that can be the difference between winning and losing big in this league, in the Big 12.
Because competing with Houston, absolutely.
Is if Darren can make you a really, really good team, and when Darren's not on the floor, you're an average team. If you're only asked to be an average team for 6 to 8 minutes a night instead of being a below average team, then there you go. So I think that they only dropped out of the AP poll because they've challenged themselves. Most teams in the country don't have a loss on the road to North Carolina and on a neutral floor to Duke. Most teams are playing South Carolina State and USC Upstate and Mississippi Valley State and such. And
boy, there's
KU's gone out and scheduled
stray
some
bullets
tough
right
ones.
now. I'm sure they have very respectable basketball programs, but they don't quite get the respect of Duke in North Carolina. So, we'll see what happens with KU, but good win today there against the Fighting Irish. Now, local college football, boy, did we have a little bit of a crazy weekend here with our local schools. I think we have to talk about probably the biggest story that came out of all of this. Kansas State going on the road at 12th or 13th ranked Utah at the time out there in Salt Lake City. 12th ranked Utah.
Yep.
And K-State They had a 10-point lead with 3 minutes to play. They were up 51. They were up 47-37. They ended up losing 51-47 after the game. Head coach Chris Kleiman started to address the media, and with his opening statement, he broke down into tears. I'm going to read you some of his quotes here, but he said, "We're down so many players, and I know a lot of people thought we'd come over here and lay down and that maybe the kids had cashed it in, because I've heard it enough. I've heard that I've cashed it in. I've heard that the players have cashed it in, and we need new leadership here. We need to get new players, new coaches. I'm tired of it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm tired of it." Then he took a pause and started tearing up when he said this. "I've given my friggin' ASS life for this place for 7 years. I've given everything for 7 years, and I think I deserve a little bit of respect." He broke down in tears up there at the podium. Athletic director Gene Taylor came over, hugged Chris Kleiman. Sounded like he said, "We've got your back. You're not going anywhere." Gabe, all my interactions with the K-State football program with Chris Kleiman, it's been first class. I think they run a first-class operation out there. They're incredible people to work with. They are very helpful. They are very courteous. It looks like they do things the right way. What do you make of Chris Kleiman breaking down like that? Because to me, this is a guy that has, it's like the pressure of expectations, and then also, I'm going to say it, the K-State fan base can be straight up toxic online and really attack their own. Do you think the fans are, I think the fans are partly to blame that this situation happened. What do you think?
I think in sports, and I mean, we saw this yesterday at the Chiefs games. I can say this with a straight face. I was critical of the Chiefs. I was not outright booing them. There were fans booing. That is a product of sports fandom and reactions, and sports happiness is expectations minus reality, and whatever that ratio or equation is equals your happiness. And ultimately, the Chiefs, they've raised people's expectations a bunch. So when reality doesn't meet it, people are upset. KU basketball, we see this all the time. K-State football, Chris Kleiman, his competency level for so long, for his 7 years, as he just mentioned in the statement that you read, he has raised the bar of what the expectation is, or at least what the floor is. And I think that's the greatest compliment to him, is that his floor is really high at K-State. The ceiling, maybe they've not hit the ceiling a bunch. They've hit it once. They've won the Big 12. That has resulted in people being frustrated. They were expected to be a team that competes for going to Arlington this year and going to the playoff this year. And it wasn't that. But if K-State had lost by 21 on Saturday and just not competed and lost 31-10, I think most people in Manhattan would have been like, you know what, lost season, really good Utah team. That's what we expected going in the weekend. My brother goes to K-State. He said that's what he was expecting. He was shocked that they were competing in that game. So ultimately, the fact that they were so close, and then to see that the coach cares that much. I mean, K-State in that game had runs of 44, 37, 66, 33, 58, 80, 33, and 24, and lost. And
school record 472 rush yards.
Exactly.
Joe Jackson broke Darren Sproles' record with 293 rush yards.
And we've talked all year long about K-State having trouble running the ball between the tackles, and they did it against one of the toughest, most physical teams in the Big 12. So I think that you have to love that there's still that level of investment and care factor in the program, and the critiques of Gene Taylor coming to the side of Chris Kleiman and people being like, that's his boss, that's different. They are, like it or not, whether you think that it is maybe makes Gene Taylor easier on Chris Kleiman, or whether it makes it so it's harder to separate them in the future and maybe figure out when the time is for Chris Kleiman to move on, and if he's lost it, who knows. But this is a program that has a stadium named Bill Snyder Family Stadium. So the fact that these two guys are this close, I think, is just fitting.
Well, I think also in modern college football, the AD and the head football coach are just going to be attached at the hip.
They have
the football coach is the football team is the biggest driver of revenue, most likely for your university. Yep. So that's going to be maybe the most important hire that you make at your university. Now, I think a lot of K-State fans sitting there trying to put Coach Kleiman on the hot seat. I think K-State fans need to take a big look in the mirror here, because I know you guys are dreaming about Colin Klein maybe coming back. I'm just going to come out and say this. I don't think the Kansas State University is going to be able to find a better head coach right now than Chris Kleiman. If you get rid of him, look at all these other programs that are out there trying to get head football coaches right now. They are going to have more resources than you. They're going to have better recruiting pitches than you. Like, K-State is not going to be first in line on the college football coaching carousel. And you got to kind of play the game, the cards that you're dealt. These are the cards that K-State is dealt. And Chris Kleiman might be the best guy that you can find to lead your program that could stay there for a long time and build stability. And also, college football, so much about this, and especially now in the NIL era, is about relationships. And Chris Kleiman has great relationships at that university, in this community, with his team. Think about what Gabe just said. K-State was struggling to run the football this year, and then they ran for a school record 472 yards against the 12th ranked team in the country. And I mean, Chris Kleiman talked about it in his postgame presser. Like, he told those kids, like, we are going to run this ball down their throats. And that's what they told them all week long. And guys, Coach said it, I'm just parroting his words. If the team did not believe in that, if the team did not buy into the coaching staff, they would not have put up 472 rush yards at the Utah Utes in a very hard environment to play. So, yes, guys, is it tough that K-State lost the game? Yes. Is it tough that K-State's not having the season that they want? Yes. But you got to look in the mirror here, and you got to realize you got to it's not this is the best probably you could be there for K-State. You're not going to get a better coach, I don't think, than Chris Kleiman. Colin Klein is probably going to go somewhere else. It's going to just be out, and he probably wouldn't stay at K-State for the long term, my opinion. So, kind of see what happens there. But, all right, we have a couple more minutes here, and I do want to get to our last topic, so we're going to skip talking about KU and Missouri, who both lost this week in tough losses. We'll see if they can rebound and close out the season with a win in their season finale. But, Gabe, big news for the Royals about the World Baseball Classic today with catcher Salvador Perez. Can you tell us a little bit about that and his involvement and everyone else's involvement on the team?
So Salvador Perez was named the captain of Team Venezuela. It will be his fourth World Baseball Classic. Going into the data on this, he first played in the World Baseball Classic in 2013. That was pre him being an all-star at any point in his MLB career. He played in his first World Baseball Classic. Presumably this is his last one. Like, I don't know if he's going to be around again for 2029 or 2030. I don't remember what year the next one of the tournament is.
I think they're back on 4-year cycles.
Yeah, so it's him. It's Jose Altuve. They are the leaders of Team Venezuela. They've never medaled with him on the roster, but they were in the quarterfinals and lost on a huge home run to Trey Turner against the U.S.
USA, baby.
We will see. He could be teammates with Michael Garcia. We don't know yet. The whole Venezuelan roster is not announced. But as we know it at this point, the Royals who will be playing in the tournament so far, Bobby Witt Jr. for the U.S., Vinny Pasquantino and Jack Caglione for Team Italy, Seth Lugo for Team Puerto Rico, and El Capitan is the captain of Venezuela.
No, definitely going to be very exciting to see all those guys. I'm interested to see maybe the impact that this could have on the Royals season next year. I know that the guys that are going to the World Baseball Classic are going to be reporting to spring training a little bit earlier than the rest of the players. Obviously, they're going to have to get ready to play some meaningful baseball games much earlier than the rest of the guys. But I think every time that players kind of go to these national teams, they can kind of come back, learn, just bring some habits from the players that are at the top of their game back to their organization. And obviously, the Royals, 2 players for Team Italy, a player for Puerto Rico, a player for USA, a player for Venezuela at least. So we're going to see maybe if that can come back and jumpstart the Royals for next season. But a very cool and very deserved honor there for Salvador Perez as his historic career continues to get more and more accolades this late into his career. But hey, guys, that's a look here at KC Sports Tonight on this Victory Monday. Be sure to stick with us throughout the week as we're going to bring you coverage of that big Chiefs-Cowboys game that you're going to see right here, 3:30 on KC TV5. One more reminder, Sports Director Marlia Campbell and the great Neil Jones will be going down there to Dallas. So stick with us on air, online, on streaming. We'll have you covered every step of the way. All right, take care, guys.